This is lesson 43 for 7th grade, and today we're talking about fractions, decimals, and percents. All things that we've talked about before. Some of them we've talked about together, but now we're talking about all three together and how to convert between each of them. So basically what we can do here is we can turn a fraction into a decimal, and we can turn a decimal into percent. We can take a percent, turn that into a decimal, and then turn that into a fraction. We can convert and get a fraction out of any one of these things. We can get a percent out of any one of these things. We can get a decimal out of any one of these things. So important things to know for the future, not just for math class future, but for real life future. Fractions, you know, baking and cooking and all that stuff. Decimal numbers for money, and percents, and well, those all things kind of relate to each other. So it's a good thing to know how to convert between and get from one thing to another to help us kind of see what we're dealing with. Alright, so it says to write a decimal number as a fraction, so we're converting a decimal to a fraction first. We're going to write the digits after the decimal point as the numerator of the fraction. So let's just take a look at this example first of all. So for the numerator, we write the digits after the decimal point as the numerator. So that would be 125. That's our numerator, 125. For the denominator of the fraction, we write the place value of the last digit. Last digit's 5, that's in the thousandths place, so we put that over 1,000. Okay, and then our last step is we would then reduce that fraction. So right now we have 125 thousandths written as a fraction, so decimal fraction. Alright, so basically taking the number after the decimal point, 125, that's our numerator, and then whatever place value the 5 is in, that's what our denominator will be. Happen to be in our thousandths place, so it's over 1,000. So we reduce it. I know that 25 goes into both of these, and there is a bigger number I could use, I'm sure, but I'm just going to go with what I know here. I could even start off by dividing by 5 and just breaking it down that way. But 125 divided by 5 is 5. 1,000 divided by 25 is 40. And I'm not done yet because I know that 5 goes into 40 8 times, so we'll divide by 5. And we get 1. 5 divided by 5, 40 divided by 5 is 8. Should get 1/8. So this 125 thousandths as a fraction is 1/8. Okay, let's take a look at this one. Mattia rode her bike 11.45 miles to the lake. Write 11.45 as a mixed number. Okay, so remember, 11 here, that's our whole number. We have a whole 11 miles in there, but we are not quite 12 miles. We're between 11 and 12 miles. And we only want to look at the number after the decimal place. So we're going to leave 11 right there. That's our big number. Now we're going to look at everything after the decimal place, 4, 5. So that's going to be our numerator. 45. Denominator is whatever place value our last number's in. Well, 5 happens to be in a hundredths place, so 11 and 45 over 100, or 11 and 45 hundredths for our mixed number. But we can reduce this. Let's divide each of these by 5. See what we get. So we still have 11 up front. 45 divided by 5 is 9. 100 divided by 5 is 20. So as a mixed number, 11.45 is 11 and 9/20 as a reduced mixed number. So that's decimal to fraction. Not too bad. Now, to change a fraction to a decimal, we're going to go backwards now. we perform the division indicated by the fraction. So if we take the fraction 1/4, that indicates that 1 is divided by 4. Notice how 1 is on the inside here, 4 is on the outside. 1 divided by 4. So that bar, remember, means division. 1 divided by 4. And whatever we're dividing by, that goes on the outside. And it says it may appear that we cannot perform this division. However, if we fix place values with the decimal point and write zeros in the decimal places to the right of the decimal point, we can perform this division. So they took our 1, added a decimal here, and then put placeholders in like that. So then we go ahead and do the division. 4 does not go into 1, goes in there 0 times. So we move on to 10. 4 goes into 10 twice. That's above. Keep our decimal point where it should be, right above 1.00. Okay, 2 times 4 is 8. And then we do the subtraction. 10 minus 8 is 2. Bring down our 0. 4 goes into 20 5 times. 5 times 4 is 20. Subtract again, we get 0. So then we know we're done. So they say that 1/4 written as a decimal is 0.25. And a lot of us might have known that already. But that's how we do it. So let's take a look at some of these. There's also some where we have repeated decimals, which we just got done talking about. So if we take 1/3, for instance, to a decimal, we take 1 divided by 3. And we can see that we're going to keep getting 3's over and over again. So remember, we're going to use that bar to indicate that 3 goes on forever. 1/3 is written as 0.3 with the 3 repeated on forever. So let's take a look here. And just to review, every fraction of whole numbers converts to either a terminating decimal, like 0.25, or a repeating decimal, like 0.3 repeated. So if we have any two whole numbers, like 4/5, or 7/100, or 125/800, something like that, as long as there are two whole numbers in a fraction, you'll either get a decimal that terminates or a decimal that repeats. Alright, find the probability of the spinner stopping on 5 and express this as a decimal number. Well, it looks like we've got 5 numbers up there of equal area, so we should have a 1 in 5 chance of getting a 5. But they want this as a decimal, not a fraction. So we're going to take our probability of 1/5 and turn it into a decimal. This means 1 divided by 5. We're going to divide 1 into 5 parts. Okay? So 5 does not go into 1. Bring our decimal up, straight up. And it's important to keep everything lined up here. 5 does go into 10 2 times. 2 times 5 is 10. Subtract, we get 0. So we're done. A remainder of 0. So the decimal number here is 1/5 equals 0.2. Okay? That one was pretty easy. We didn't have to go very far with it. Okay, looks like. Alright, move on to this one. Write each of these numbers as a decimal number. Alright, let's take a look. 100, 23/100. That one has a shortcut. We'll do it the way that we've been doing it though. 100. Alright. So 100 does not go into 23. It does go into 230 though, twice. So 2 times 100. Subtract, we get 0, 3. So 30, bring this 0 down. And 100 goes into 300 3 times. And we subtract and we get a remainder of 0. So this one would be 0.225. So shortcut there, remember if we ever multiply by tens or hundreds or things like that, we move our decimal to the right. If we divide by a power of 10, we move to the left. This one had 2 zeros, so we just moved our decimal over twice. 1, 2, 0.23. Alright, we'll get into more of that too as we go on. Checking the time there. 7 over 4. Let's see what that one is. 4 goes into 7 one time. Drop our 0. 4 goes into 30. There's our decimal there. 4 goes into 37 times. 7 times 4 is 28. Subtract, get 2. Bring this 0 down. 4 goes into 20 5 times, and we subtract and get 0. So 1.75 for that one. That one should be bigger than 1 because our numerator is bigger than our denominator. C. Here we have a mixed number, so we're going to leave 3 alone. The only thing is we should know we're going to get 3 point something. We're not quite to 4, so it's going to be 3 point something and close to 4. So let's just figure out the 4/5 part. 5 is not going to 4. 5 does go into 40 8 times. 8 times 5 is 40. Subtract, we get 0. So this one is 3.8. Alright, so we're only worried about the fraction part there to turn into a decimal. We already know we're at 3, so 3.8. And 2/3, do that one real quick. This one I can tell you we'll get a repeated decimal. So let's see what that's going to be. 3 does not go into 2. 3 goes into 26 times. 6 times 3 is 18. Subtract, we get 0. Or we get 2. Bring the 0 down, we get 20. 3 goes into 26 times. And we're going to keep getting 18s and 20s. So we should see that this one will be 0.6 repeated. So the 6 is going to repeat forever. We're getting close on the time there. That's how we do all those. And let's see what we've got left here. I think we've got one other thing to cover. Let's see which one would be bigger here. Well, this, if we turn this decimal, or this fraction into a decimal, we'll get 0.3. This one is 0.333. With the 3's repeated, we can add some zeros here. So first place value, they're the same. Second place, 3 is bigger than 0, so that one will be bigger. Okay? They're not equal. So just keep that in mind. Try to trick you there. And lastly, our percents. So percent means per hundred or hundredths. So 75% means 75 hundredths. Just remember that percents are always out of 100. Like on a test, the best you can do is 100% unless there's extra credit. So 75% and 75 over 100, 0.75 as a decimal. So here's full swing. What we can do, we can turn a percent into a fraction, and then in turn turn a fraction into a decimal. So we can get to every single type of number on what we're given. And 5%. 5 over 100 reduces or turns into a decimal of 0.05. So we should see that a percent may be written as a decimal using the same digits, but the decimal point shifted 2 places to the left. So all they did was take 75, move the decimal 2 spots over, 0.75. 5%, 1, 2, put a 0 here, 0.05 for our percent. I'm going to stop it right here, and then we'll start with part 2, which should be very short.